Today on Stock Charts in Focus, we're taking a look at one of my favorite little stop management tricks. Allows you to position horizontal lines on your charts at your stop levels. A nice little visual to help you manage and monitor those stops as you go. We're going to do this in SharpCharts. We're going to do this in ACP. So regardless of which platform you're using, you're going to bring those stops right onto your charts with today's show. And we're also going to take a look at the price alerts tool in ACP, show you how easy it is to click on your charts and set price alerts for the symbols that you are following. Another helpful tool to use as you are managing and monitoring those stops. So lots to cover on the show today. Of course, you know what it is. It's all new. It's all here. It's Stock Charts in Focus. All right, my friends, welcome to the show, Stock Charts in Focus. Of course, our product focus show here on the channel where we dig into the site, dive into the features, show you around the tools, and ultimately help you get more value out of stock charts. That is our mission here every Friday on Stock Charts in Focus. Of course, you can tune in on the live channel on the Stock Charts website, but you can also access this show and all of our other Stock Charts TV content on our YouTube channel after it airs, and also the on-demand platform at StockChartsTV.com. Lots of different ways to watch. My name is Grayson Roze, Vice President of Operations here at StockCharts.com, and today's episode, of course, is going to be a fun one. It's always a fun one when we get to jump into the site, tour you around different corners of the website, charts, tools, tips, tricks, all that good stuff. But today's episode, once again, is going to reach into my own personal toolkit. We're going to take a look at something that I use on my own charts. Now, this is a timely tool that we're going to take a look at as well, because obviously we have a market that is quite volatile at the moment. We are really chopping around in quite a trading range here on the major indexes. We got a lot of charts breaking down. We got a lot of things happening. And so if you've got any trades on, if you've got any investments on, you might have some stops that you are watching closely. Now, stop setting, obviously a big topic, something that a lot of people have different strategies for, something that a lot of people talk about, obviously the importance of stop setting and everything like that for any trading or investment system. Stop setting, though, is generally something that lots of people talk about from many different angles, and it's also something that generally happens in our brokerage account, right? Or maybe in a spreadsheet that we keep. A lot of times it's kind of tricky to bring those stops right onto the charts. You might have those levels in mind. You might have annotations or something drawn on your charts, but it can be a little bit difficult to bring those stops kind of into your chart review. Ultimately, if you've got a portfolio, you've got a lot of positions on, active trades, active investments or anything, you want to keep those stop levels in mind, but how can you make that easy? How can you do that? That's what today's show is going to address. Using a couple of little simple setup tricks, you can actually add stops to your charts in a very easy to manage, easy to monitor, and most importantly, easy to follow kind of way. These can get saved to the chart, saved into your chart list, so it makes it really easy to kind of see and monitor and even manage those stops as you go. So we're going to take a look at some really fun tools today here. Pretty simple, nothing too complex, but this is really going to help you, again, manage and monitor, and most importantly, just visualize those stops that you have set on your different positions. Now, as I mentioned in the open, we're going to do this in SharpCharts. We're going to do this in ACP. We're going to check out both platforms, show you how you can use this little setup trick in either world. Once we jump over to ACP as well, I want to review the price alerts tool over there. We'll just give you a quick highlight, something that we've demonstrated on the show in the past, but it's a really great tool, again, for stop setting. Over there in ACP, you have the ability to hover over your chart, click on a specific price, and really quickly set an alert at that price level. So once you've sort of pinpointed your stops, once you've added those to the charts, you might want to actually set alerts on those price levels as well, or slightly above, to sort of keep an eye on some of those price levels as different stocks that you own or funds or whatever it is are trading around. So we're going to take a look at a ton on today's show. It's going to be a lot of fun in both worlds. So without further ado, let's jump over to the site and get going. So here we are on the SharpCharts workbench. I've jumped over to the site, typed in a ticker symbol up here, and we've jumped over to SharpCharts. Now, before I highlight the stop setting trick that we're going to set up here on this chart, I do want to remind everyone you have an important feature here on the workbench called the inspector or the inspect mode. When you turn this on, what it's going to do is give you the little crosshairs on your chart. I find that this is incredibly helpful for many different things, but it's also incredibly helpful for stop setting. Allows you to really just kind of hover over the chart, see that price over on the right side of the screen. You can see that little label that changes as I move my cursor. So this tool can make it really easy to zero in on important price levels. So here, for instance, on MGPI, we can sort of hover over the this recent price level around kind of that 88, 89 level. We can see that this was really some clear resistance for the stock that it finally broke through, and now actually a couple sessions ago has retested and kind of been bouncing off of. Now you can see that sort of visually on the chart, but once you turn on the inspector and you actually get to hover over the chart and sort of pinpoint some of those levels, the inspector just makes it really easy to see this stuff. The other thing that the inspector does is give you some built-in measuring functions. So if you click and drag on this chart, if you drag down, you see that it'll actually show you the percentage change in either direction. If you click and drag horizontally, it'll show you the number of bars that you are sort of highlighting there with the inspector. So a couple of cool little built-in tricks. I'm going to leave this on though. This is again something that I generally leave on my SharpCharts. I like to keep that inspect mode turned on. And we'll show you why here in just a second. So what we're going to do today is show you a little trick that I've set up on my charts. Now this is something I've actually saved to the ChartStyle. So in this case, what we're looking at is my default chart style. This is sort of my go-to. You can see that I've actually set it up as a style button over here as well. But anytime I type in a ticker symbol up at the top of the screen, this is the chart that I pull up. You've probably seen this chart if you've been following this show. You've seen this chart many times. This is the one that we generally review. And once we jump over to ACP, my chart over there is going to look very similar. Something that's kind of hidden though, that's actually on this chart at the moment, is this little stop setting trick that we're going to show you. So let's say we've identified this level here around that 88 point. Let's say we put on a new trade. We just jumped into this a couple of days ago. We saw it kind of bouncing off of that price level. We said, hey, this is prior resistance turning into support. We're seeing this stock continue to move to the upside after sort of pulling back and testing that level. Let's say you liked what you were seeing here in MGPI. You put on a new trade around that 89, 90, 91 level, somewhere in here. So once you put on that trade, you're going to want to set a stop, right? Now, I've set something up on this chart that makes it very easy to add my stop. So using the inspector, we can actually sort of pinpoint where we might want that stop. In this case, actually, I've picked MGPI because it's a really interesting chart. If I use that inspector and I kind of measure down, we can see that this has actually been in a bit of a range. We had kind of another breakout here above that 76 level. Again, another level that it bounced off of from the underside, some resistance, and then it broke through that, came all the way back down to test kind of that mid-70s level, and has now bounced higher. So this is another important price level for this stock, around kind of that mid-70s level. What's interesting here is that from the breakout level that we might have just added our new trade at, we can see that this is about a 15% range. It's been bouncing around in about a 15% range here on MGPI. So we've got prior resistance turned into support, and that's about a 15% pullback from the new breakout level. So we might want to set our stop there. We might want to actually use this inspector and say, hey, if we drag this down, it looks like this is an important price level here around the 75, 69 level, so 75, 76. That might be where we want to set our stop. So we can use that inspect tool to actually kind of measure that out and see some of those levels. Makes it really easy to pick out some of those important price levels. So let's say we've put on our new trade up here, kind of around that, again, that 90, 91 level, and we're gonna set our stop somewhere around 76. Let's say we wanna set it at 76. Well, I've actually turned on a feature of this chart down below in the settings area that makes it really easy to add a horizontal line to this chart at that 76 level, at our stop level, without having to go fumble through settings and add a ton of stuff and set things up from a display perspective and all of that. So let's scroll down a little bit on this chart. If we look in the overlay section, we can see that we have all of our moving averages, but there's actually, if you look closely, an overlay on here that's not appearing on the chart at the moment. What I've done is added a horizontal line to this chart. This is an overlay, and as the name suggests, it's just going to draw a horizontal line across the chart. In the parameters box, that's where you get to set whatever value that horizontal line is going to be at. So when I set up this chart style, I added this horizontal line. I set it to be a solid, thick line because it's an important price level that we want to watch. It's a stop, let's say, in theory. And I've set that actually to be a red line. So a stop, obviously something that we want to keep a close eye on. For me, red, a bright red line is that important visual that really jumps off the chart at me. So I want a solid, thick red line, and I've set the opacity at 1 so it's as bright as possible. So I've set up that horizontal line, but when I created this chart, when I created this chart style and saved this chart style, I left this parameters box blank. So now anytime that I jump over to another symbol, if I pulled up Microsoft or Apple or Adobe, whatever I jumped over to, if I change the symbol on this chart, this empty horizontal line, sort of non-existent horizontal line, is still going to be here. And I'm still going to have this empty parameters box down here on the workbench. So we can sort of combine these two concepts now. What this means is that if I took a position in MGPI, let's say, and again, let's say we take that position around that kind of 90 and 91 level. We identify our stop. We use the inspector to kind of measure that out. We say, okay, a 15% stop. It's a little bit big maybe for this market, but that's where we want to set our stop. So we've identified that we want our stop somewhere around the 76 level. Well, now, if I've taken that position, I've added this stock to my portfolio, all I have to do to sort of visually add that stop to this chart is just scroll down here and do 76. I type in 76, we can do it 76 on the dot. And when I hit update, now you can see that that 76 level is highlighted on this chart with that thick red horizontal line. So I now have a visual that represents where I've placed my stop on this trade. And because I just kind of keep this horizontal line overlay on the chart at all times, it means that I don't have to go fumbling around setting this up. I can type in that level, save that, and now I can add this chart to any of my chart lists, save it to one of my chart lists in my account, and that 76 level is going to be highlighted there. My stop is going to be highlighted on this chart with that solid red line moving across it. Now the nice thing is that this is actually a chart that I can save to my account. I can put this in any of my chart lists, and as this trade evolves in the future, because that is a saved chart, I can just come down here and update this. Let's say over time we see this evolve and we want to move this stop up to 80. I can come over to this chart, move that up to 80, and I can resave this chart. Makes it really easy to kind of keep these stops on our charts and sort of watch those evolve over time. So it's a very simple little trick, but the interesting thing is that this is actually something that you can set up and sort of leave on your charts, basically hidden kind of behind the scenes there. You can just leave that empty parameters box there for the horizontal line, and that overlay will be there in the future whenever you need it. So for instance, if I did some other stock, we'll do something like CSL, you can see that I've now moved over to a different chart. I've come back up to the top. I've typed in a different ticker symbol. Now in this case, we're looking at CSL. When I scroll down here, again, I've got that horizontal line. I've got that empty parameters box. And so if I were to take a position in CSL and then I save this chart to one of my chart lists in my account, now it's something that I own. I want to keep an eye on this. I can actually come down here and type in whatever I want my stop to be, and that'll draw that horizontal line right across that chart, and I can actually save it and keep an eye on that as I'm sort of watching this chart evolve. So in this case, maybe we want our stop to be something like 250, kind of around that breakout level for CSL. So all we have to do is type in, let's do 249.50. We type that in, hit update, and now you can see we've got that red horizontal line right across our charts representing our stock. So our stop, excuse me. So we can save this to our account, makes it really easy to follow these, sort of visually see those stops right on our charts, but then also monitor and manage them. We can continue to move this horizontal line higher and higher as the trade evolves. So a nice little trick here on the SharpCharts workbench, using that horizontal line tool and just kind of leaving it on your charts for the future, for when you need it. You don't have to actually fumble around and add that. You can just include this in the chart style. By the way, when I say include this in the chart style, what we mean is I've added this horizontal line option here, that overlay. I've left that parameters box blank. So here's kind of what this chart looks like by default. And now when I save this as a chart style using the menus right here, that horizontal line with the blank parameters box is going to be saved to the chart style. So in this case, we're looking at my equity daily chart style. This is my default. I have a whole leveling system, which is another thing that we've actually talked about on a previous episode. But I've actually saved that horizontal line overlay with the blank parameters box. I've saved that to this chart style, as you can see. And to do so, all I have to do is come up here and do add new, type in the name of the chart style, or replace an existing chart style from my account. So that horizontal line is just kind of always there on my charts for when I need it. If I do take a position in a particular name, I can save that chart, add my stop, and watch that move higher as the trade goes with me. So a nice little visual there to bring those stops right onto my charts. So with that, let's actually jump over to ACP. We'll take a look at how to set this up over in our advanced charting platform. And while we're over there, we're also going to take a quick look to review. We're going to take a quick look at that price alerts tool, another very cool little stop setting trick that you can use over in ACP. So we'll jump over to ACP now and take a look at this over in that platform. All right, everyone. So here we are in ACP. This is our new advanced charting platform. A much more kind of interactive experience here, a little bit different from SharpCharts, but all the concepts are still the same. You're still creating charts with a type, with a period, with a range. You're setting all your indicators, all of that. You're still creating chart styles and saving those to chart lists. All the concepts from SharpCharts are the same. So if you are kind of new to ACP, and if conceptually things should be very similar to you. So what we're going to do is I've actually pulled up that same symbol that we started with, MGPI, and we're just going to take a look at how I've done the exact same thing as SharpCharts, but over here in ACP. So I'll actually jump over to the chart styles menu, show you that if I click on that exact same chart style, I've set things up in both platforms to be very, very similar. So if we click on that same chart style, just to show you kind of where we are, we can see how that chart looks. Now, like I said, I use kind of similar styles in SharpCharts and ACP. They look basically the exact same, just slight variations between the two. So if we jump back to our chart settings menu over here on the left, you can actually see that that indicator, that same sort of blank horizontal line, is also on this chart. In this case, all I've done to add that is I've come down here to the add indicator menu. Now in my case, I've actually favorited horizontal lines, so you can see that right there. These are all of my sort of favorite indicators. That keeps those up at the top of the list. But we could scroll all the way through this list to find horizontal line, or if we know what we want to jump to, we could actually just start to type and that'll come up right here. So in this case here in the all indicators menu, we've got our horizontal line indicator. If you do want to favorite anything, by the way, all you have to do is star that indicator and it'll jump right up to your favorites list. But once we find that in the all indicators menu, all we have to do is give it a click and that'll add that horizontal line to our chart. Now, it's going to be blank by default when we first add that, and it's going to look something like this. So again, I've set this up in the exact same way. I've got a solid line going across my charts. I've got the full opacity on there. In this case, I've kept the legend hidden because I mostly just want the visual of kind of where that stop is. I don't actually need the full legend over here, but I've set that to be a red line as well, just like we had in SharpCharts. Now by default, that's going to share the scale with the main symbol. That's what we want here. And just like we had in SharpCharts, you can either leave this blank or you can actually type in a 0. In my case, actually here in ACP, I've typed in a 0 and I've saved this to that chart style. So we've done the exact same thing. Now before I go and add that horizontal line, I'll show you just like we did in SharpCharts. To set this up and then save it as a chart style, all you do is create your chart exactly the way that you want it, then come over here to the chart styles menu on the left side of the screen, the one with the little paintbrush, and you can scroll down to the bottom of that panel, look for the big green button at the bottom of that panel, and all you have to do is click that save button to either save this as a new chart style, or if you've got one that you want to update with this kind of little trick that we're setting up today, you can always select an existing chart style from your account hit save, and that'll add that chart style to your account. So very, very similar to what we did in SharpCharts. Again, conceptually between these two worlds, the charts look a little bit different, the platforms look a little bit different, but conceptually everything is the same. It's still chart styles, it's still chart lists, it's still indicators and overlays, all of that good stuff. So very similar concepts. So back here in our chart settings menu, as you can see here in the chart outline, I've got that horizontal line on my charts, but because it's set to 0, it really doesn't appear. So we can turn on our crosshairs just like we did with the inspector. We've got our horizontal lines. We can sort of pinpoint exactly where we want those stops to be. So again, let's say we took our new trade, put that on around the 89 or 90 level. We've zeroed in on our stop that we want to be somewhere around that kind of 76 level. So let's say we've put that trade on, we've saved this to our account now. We can actually come over here to the chart outline, hit that little gears icon right in there, and once we've identified the level that we want our stop at, all we have to do is type that in. Now you'll see that horizontal line appears right on this chart. We can close that out, and from here we could save this chart to a chart list in our account. Now that's going to do just like it did in SharpCharts. That's going to allow us to kind of keep an eye on this chart with that stop drawn right across the chart. As that trade evolves, we're going to have that stop level visually right on that saved chart. So personally, by the way, what I like to do is create a chart list in my account called all positions, and everything that I own gets sort of dumped into that same chart list. So take all the positions that you have in one account or in all your different accounts, put those saved charts into that all positions list or whatever you want to call it, but create that chart list that's got all of your different sort of active positions in it. And then when you have a new trade like this, a new chart that you want to keep an eye on, you can save that into that all positions list. That's how I do it. So in this case, if I took this trade in MGPI, if I put that trade on, I would save this chart with my stop level. I would save that to my all positions chart list. That's how chart lists can really help you sort of keep track of the stocks and funds that you actually own, all the positions that you have. You can also get into really cool things like chart list reports and running scans against that chart list, but that's all for a future episode. So anyways, hopefully you see how easy it is to add one of these horizontal lines. Again, at your stop level makes it really, really easy to see. And once you're ready to save that chart, all you've got to do is come up to either the save icon in the top of ACP or the save button down at the bottom. That'll allow you to pick your chart list that you want to save this into, set a name for that, even add any comments. You could even type in your specific stops in this comments box, but you can save this to your account and then keep an eye on that chart. As it evolves, keep moving those stops higher. Again, it's really, really easy to move these. All you've got to do is come back to that chart outline, click on that little gears icon, and if you wanted to move this up like we did to 80, you just type in 80, you can see that line moves right on up. 85, we can move it up even further. Maybe this chart evolves and the trade really starts working, that bounce holds, and we see this thing run higher. We move that all the way up to 90. We can just kind of keep moving this line higher, saving that chart, and it'll be right there in that chart list for us to review. Every time that we go and click that, it'll pull that right up. So again, these tools, these little tips and tricks that we're reviewing today make it really easy to review your stops over time. Set those right on the chart and then keep an eye on those. Once we set our stops, we need to keep monitoring those. We need to keep an eye on those. And we want to see those stops move higher, right? We want to protect those profits. So having this little visual on your charts allows you to see where that stop is, see where price is relative to that stop. And it makes it really obvious as a trade starts to work for you. It makes it obvious, hey, I need to move that red line up my charts. I need to keep that thing evolving, move my stop higher to protect some of those profits. That is, I find, the power of having these stop visuals right on your charts. It makes it really obvious when you need to set your stops a little higher, when you need to start moving those up, or if you see a stock that's really starting to come down and is getting dangerously close to one of your stops, makes it really clear, hey, I need to keep an eye on this because my stop might get triggered here pretty soon. So that is the power of adding this to your charts. So before we jump off for today, the other thing that I really wanted to highlight here in ACP, Again, something that we have reviewed on the show in the past. But down here in the bottom left corner of the screen, you have that little bell. That is for the alerts panel. When you give that a click, this opens the Create Alert panel here in ACP. This is one of my favorite little features in ACP, and again, something that is really, really helpful when it comes to stop setting, stop management, and stop monitoring. So with those price levels that we want to keep in mind for any symbol, any ETF, any stock, any cryptocurrency, anything that you are tracking, if you're here in ACP, you give that little bell a click, and that's going to open up this panel. Now, when I hover over this chart, the crosshairs are automatically going to be turned on for me. In this case, I did already have them on, but as we can probably demonstrate here in a quick second, if we turn the crosshairs off, you'll see that those are turned on. When I open up this Create Alert panel, they now get kind of switched on for me. The reason for that is that I can just hover over this chart and click to set a price alert. So again, let's say we put on that trade. Let's say we put our original stop somewhere around that 76 level. So we can hover over this chart exactly where we want, give that a click, and you'll see that over here on the left, that price automatically gets entered into our price alert sort of price level box. From there, all we have to do is select our trigger, whether we want the alert to fire off when price crosses above that level, or in this case, with a stop, we'd want to be alerted if we're on the long side, we'd want to be alerted when price starts to get close to that level. So we want to do a trigger when the price crosses below that specific level that we've put in here. Now, if you've got a stop that's actually entered in, of course, with your brokerage, you don't want the alert right at that stop because it's going to get triggered. So you might want this actually a little bit above. Let's say we had our stop set in the brokerage account, in our personal account. Let's say we had it set around that 76 level. We might want to get an alert when we start to get a little close to this. So we might want to actually move that up a little bit and set our alert at maybe 77 or 78 so that we get that alert firing off for us, as you can see here, either on the site or via email or via text message. We might want to get that price alert before that stop gets triggered. So you have a couple of different options there. But the thing to highlight really on the show today is just how easy it is to set these price alerts here in ACP just by clicking on the chart. And if you click once, it'll enter that in. If you click again, it'll change that price. So you can really just kind of keep clicking until you find the one that's exactly what you want. Set that trigger, set your notification type however you want it. You can choose all three if you want to really get notified, or if you know that you really just kind of want to focus on your email, you can do that, or just on the website, any options there. Once you do that though, you just hit save and it enters that in right into your account. So very, very easy to set these price alerts here in ACP. And when you combine this with your stop setting tools, having that horizontal line across your saved charts, these are some tools that can really just kind of help keep you focused on those price levels that matter most to you for your active position. So a couple of little setup tricks here in both SharpCharts and ACP that allow you to get more out of some of these tools. And again, just keep an eye on those stops, manage and monitor those as you go. So that is our show for today. And then we touched on a lot, looked at a couple of setup tricks there in SharpCharts, looked at a couple of setup tricks there in ACP as well. Always fun when we get to highlight both worlds. We've got this question a lot from SharpCharts users who say, hey, is ACP really something I should use? It seems like there's a lot there. Am I going to be familiar with anything? Is it a whole new world to learn? I do like to reassure people, if ACP is interesting to you, but you're primarily working out of SharpCharts, two things. As we said earlier in the show, the concepts are all the same. The terminology is the same. You're still creating charts with that chart type, with that period, with a range. You're setting up your indicators just like you do in SharpCharts. And then you're saving chart styles. You're saving chart lists. You're saving those charts into your chart lists. So all the concepts are the same. It's just kind of the layout of the menus and things like that are a little bit different. But conceptually, all the things that you know and love from SharpCharts still hold true over in ACP. The other thing that I like to always say to people is that there are ways to use ACP even if you're primarily using SharpCharts. So for instance, on the SharpCharts workbench at the bottom, you actually have a link to ACP. And when you give that a click, it'll open up whatever symbol you are looking at in ACP. So if you're on the SharpCharts workbench and you identify a price level that you really want to set an alert at, you got a couple of different ways to do that. But one way that you can actually do that is to hit that little ACP button at the bottom of the SharpCharts workbench, jump over to ACP, it'll open that up in a new tab, and then you can just toggle over to that create alert little menu on the left side of the screen, click on your chart and set an alert. The price alerts, regardless of which world you sort of primarily use, the price alerts are kind of separate. So you can always set those price alerts either from ACP or from SharpCharts. They're still going to fire off exactly the same no matter which chart you prefer. So there's always a couple of different ways to explore ACP, to use ACP, even if you are primarily a SharpCharts user. But the other thing, the big news, we have a ton of very, very, very exciting features coming to SharpCharts this year. The team is hard at work behind the scenes on some incredible updates and enhancements for SharpCharts. So we've got huge things coming this year to SharpCharts. Things like interactive price alert setting, some of these things that we're looking at in ACP, we're going to be bringing a lot of that stuff over to the SharpCharts world as well. So if you are a SharpCharts user, rest assured that platform is not going anywhere. We're going to continue to invest heavily in SharpCharts, and we've got some fantastic things coming this year. I've seen some of the direction that the team is going in, some of the things that they're working on, and it's very, very exciting. So like we always say, we have two different ways to chart the markets, two sort of primary charting tools now. ACP for that kind of more all-in-one interactive charting experience, but SharpCharts as well is a fantastic platform, especially for kind of chart study. Makes it really, really easy to review those charts over time, create those lists, move things around. There's so many strengths to SharpCharts, and so that platform is absolutely not going anywhere. We're going to continue to bring exciting tools and features over to SharpCharts as we go. So lots of big things coming. Of course, this is going to be the place to hear about all that stuff this year as we roll out new tools and new features, new enhancements to the site. So StockCharts in Focus, as we always like to say, our product focus show here on the channel, where we just dig into the site, we tour around things, we highlight tips and tricks like we did today. And ultimately, every Friday, we're just trying to sit down and help you get a little more value out of StockCharts. That's our mission on this show every week, every Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Also up on YouTube, also up on that StockChartsTV.com on-demand platform. So lots of different ways to watch, but always something happening here on the show. And whenever something is new around the site, as we're going to have a lot of this year, this is always going to be the place to hear about that, to see it all in action. So anyways, my name is Grayson Roze, Vice President of Operations here at StockCharts.com. It's been great to sit down with you today, review some of the stop setting tools that I personally like to use for my charts in my account. Hopefully this has given you some fun ideas to play around with, some interesting things to bring to your approach, either in SharpCharts or in ACP. Of course, we'll be back next week with another edition of this show, Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, up on the live channel, also up on YouTube after that, and the on-demand platform at StockCharts TV. But until then, I hope you enjoy the weekend, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again very soon for another edition of the show. Until then, chart on, my friends.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.